This one's short and sweet. I just happened to think about an idea for restaurants that serve, let's say, meal-oriented food. You could make a nostalgia day. And one particular restaurant I have in mind is Morrison's Cafeteria. So, for instance, even if it wasn't Morrison's or Piccadilly, you could come up with a specific cafeteria-style menu, and on that day or that time of the month or that time of the year, you could have that particular day be, oriented to that menu. Or the week or whatever. So that's one example. It's like that, or you could do like a diner day where everything is how they would do it in the diner, or a fast food of the 50s instead of the fast food of like the post McDonald's era. These are some like basic ideas of how to do a nostalgia day for restaurants. That's one thing that doesn't quite exist yet. They have like specialty days for special kinds of or ethnic foods, but this is more oriented around going back to your childhood. Maybe it's ice cream, and so there's ice cream specials and things like this that have to do with how they used to do it, the milkshakes and all these kinds of things. So, like for instance, I went to a couple of places like that in California. There was one I think it was called Mel's. It was based on the one that exists in the 90210. And you would have like the burgers from another era. They didn't bother with the big, huge burgers. The whole point was the signature staple of the time. And you find that, like, especially people from like New York, they had like niche ideas where the niche idea, you would only find it there. So like even doing like a sub day, it's like be a real sub shop for that day, where the food is really, like from that realm, from that region. So it would be more authentic than your normal, here's our version of a sub based on our, menu. No, do the actual, like, the way that they would have done it, and then you might have to, like, because restaurants are structurally based around, planning for the week or the month or whatever, you might have to do it, like, for a whole week. So this week is such and such sub day. This week is Morrison's Cafeteria Day. This week is Diner Day. Whatever retro meal, you could have, of course, a German day. And then you could do your World Travels Day. These kinds of things. Have something like a Disney Day or a Las Vegas Day. I always wanted to have the restaurants that I work in have these kinds of specialty days. This is not something you have to go way out of your way to do. This is just more a different order of the food that week. It's no big deal at all. It's just you have to kind of get used to whatever that menu would be for that week or whatever. And it would be pretty simple stuff. The point is not to make a complex meal and bewilder everybody. The point is just to make something like from another era, retro, because retro is king on the internet. So I think it may apply to food. And I'm a big time, I'll eat anything, but I like doing all kinds of like travels around food. So I can see why you get more interested in that when you get older. You really want to try a lot of different stuff, depending if your food is your focus, like myself. If you're a foodie, even like gardening, their whole thing is to make like an emphasis on the fruits and the vegetables as the course. This such and such fruit is this premium selection. So like if you're European or if you're especially Italian, the oil and the bread and the cheese, these things are the meal. Then additionally, you have like the Americanized versions where it's like, this is chicken parmesan and this is, lasagna Wednesday. No, we're talking about like more authentic travels, how they actually do it, how they would actually do the pizza. So this is like the traveling around. But like speaking in terms of Las Vegas, since I've been there one whole time, and I'll probably go back, it was interesting to like try the buffet. That's really the main reason I wanted to go to Las Vegas was the buffets. I swear to God. But so I went to Caesar's Palace Buffet, and of course it was just incredible, dude. It was like, so even the presentation of the food was totally like enticing. It's like I'm in a new place and I'm seeing food in a new way for the first time. It's like when you live in the city as well, you get to like you go to a Russian town, it looks Russian, and you go to Chinatown, it looks Chinese, or the American version or whatever. But you see stuff in a different way. You got to be careful where you go. And like even there's a lot of Latin areas in San Francisco, and when you would walk through those streets, those areas were like Mexico, and they were like totally Latin. There was like no, Americanization, bastardization of the concept. They did it their way in the mission, and so it's just I just happen to use that phrase. I didn't mean to use that phrase, but so this is like the Caesar's Palace buffet. Like having a buffet day, but also in terms of what they provided, it was like super top notch. And so it was like another way of thinking about like, this is going to be the finest of this and the finest of that. Even if it really wasn't, it kind of looked like it, and it kind of gave a great presentation. But I was pretty well impressed, I think, with the things I had. And the way that they served it was unique. Like you'd get a pan, and the pan had the food in it, and you just eat that right out the pan. It was like, that was cool. It's a different way of eating even. So this was just a random idea for all kinds of restaurants, but especially ones that make meals, because the meal is about the courses and the different specials of the day. So this is a way of attracting, this aging class like myself who would like to have tried things from the past. Plus, you can get to all of the things that you hear about, because there's tons of people that have a ton of experiences working in food. Food is like a really innocent job. It's like people really try to master, their craft in food if they become a service worker in the food industries, in terms of, their recipes and their cooking methods and such. So it's a nice and innocent way of expanding the horizons of the menus for restaurant style eating, I think. Just a thought.